Well, today I'm with Shireen and her husband, Che, and they've written a book called I Still Say I Do. Welcome, guys, to the studio.
Thanks for having us.
Nice to have, I would say, live people in the studio with me these days, right? But this is such an important topic. I Still Say I Do. Why did you write the book?
Well, we were going through a very challenging time in terms of my health. And we kept getting the question, how are you guys doing? How are you making it? And I'd always go to Che and say, people want to know, how are you doing? How are you making it? How's your marriage?
Yeah.
And he would always answer, well, I made my vows, and so I'm going to keep them. And so that's what's keeping us.
Yeah, that's what's keeping you.
Yes.
Okay, so you made your vows. You said I do, right?
That's right.
And you
That's
meant
right.
it.
Absolutely. I think the book speaks to how we wanted to bring hope and encouragement to marriages. That's really was the central focus of why we wanted to write this book.
And you've lived through some fires, haven't you?
Yes.
That's for sure.
And you still say I do, which infers that you didn't just say I do on the day of your marriage,
That's
but you're
right.
continuing to. So what is love a choice then? Is that what you're suggesting, Che?
It's definitely a daily walk,
Yeah.
and it is a daily choice. You have to set your mind to the marriage and to walking daily in whatever you're going to encounter to make sure that it's flourishing, that it's moving forward, that it's healthy, but you have to be investing in it and walking day by day in that investment.
Yeah, no, that's really good. And like you went through some tough health things.
Yes.
We know more of your story too.
Yes.
And you chose love in those moments too,
Of
right?
course. Like, you know, when you stand at the altar and you say, I do, you know, you're looking at the glass through roses,
Sure, for
you know,
sure.
rose-colored glasses.
Yeah.
And you have no idea what's going to hit.
Yeah.
And for us, things started hitting from our honeymoon, right?
Right.
So, and then on, and you have to remember, I said I do. You have to remember I married this person for a
Yes.
reason. You have to remember what you liked
Yeah.
and what you love, because every day is not a wonderful day.
Yeah, it's true. We don't all wake up, you know,
Looking
fine
this
and ready.
beautiful.
So it's really practical. You know what I love about it? It's so practical. It's very readable. So even husbands would read this book.
That's right. We definitely
Right.
wanted to make it bite-sized for the gentlemen that are going to be reading this book, because, you know, sometimes our attention might not be held
Yeah.
as long as it should be, but we
Yeah.
made it bite-sized so that we can digest it and apply the principles to marriages,
I love
again,
it.
to make them as healthy as possible.
Well,
That's
you know
why
what?
we have both of our opinions. So
I
that the
love it.
males would come and read it too.
You know what? I like that it's so small and condensed, because I'm glad you said that. I wasn't going to, say anything again.
I can speak generally for the
right?
men.
Sometimes men, they just don't want to read a book. So this is really readable, really practical. But so let me ask you, you got lots of wisdom in here. There's lots of key principles. Che, what would you say is one of the main principles in this book that you found to really help people?
I think one of the main principles would be to be intentional.
Yeah.
And with that intention, to act upon it. Because I think a lot of times we think things in our head about things we can do or things we would like to see in our marriages, but we don't necessarily act on those thoughts. So I think being intentional to act on those thoughts, to see them included in the marriage, so that, again, you can just put those ingredients in that are going to make kind of, for lack of a better word, a great cake, a great wedding cake.
So I'm going to put you on the spot. Give me an example of one way you've been intentional in your marriage.
One way I've been intentional has definitely been to be proactive with planning certain things,
Okay.
whether it's moments for Shireen and I to spend quality time together,
Right.
whether it's creating, again, times for the family to get together and, again, be together as a family unit, which is more of an extension of the marriage.
Yeah.
But I think, again, just being proactive in planning different things as opposed to letting things just happen. Because I think if you're not planning, if you're not being intentional with creating situations where your marriage can thrive and grow and be strengthened, you're kind of just drifting. And that's not something you want to do. You want to make sure you're steering the boat as opposed to being just drifting with the tide.
I love that. It's not just the husband's job, but I can tell you, every woman right now is cheering.
I'm cheering.
That, right? Shireen, what's your favorite principle or one that you found really helps people?
I really like the whole principle of being as honest and transparent as you can be, even if it hurts, because there are some things that hurt, but it's not said out of hate and meaning to hurt you. But if you can trust someone even with the hurts, then you can say, okay, I can tell them anything and everything. And so I really like that idea that we share of being honest and transparent with each other.
Yeah, I really like that, because sometimes you think like you don't want to hurt the person, so maybe it's best not to speak. But I think you're right that deepens the relationship, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Yeah. Is there another one from here? You have several chapters, really practical things. I like the couples that have a support system. You talk
Yes.
about support systems, and I found that to be true in my marriage. Is that one of that you find helps people?
Yes, because we need to understand, just like we say, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yes.
It takes that same village to support relationships and marriages. You cannot do it alone. That's why you have a wedding party.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, we don't want to tell them those
Right,
things
we
that
don't
are
wanna include
happening.
them in the marriage or
Right.
when we're having struggles or when we want advice on something. So again, to Shireen's point, they're standing there with you that day when you say I do. So why not include them as the village to help the marriage?
So good, so good. We're seeing a lot of challenges in marriages. You spend time with couples. What, just briefly, are maybe some of the challenges that people are facing right now? What would you say is one of them?
I think the finances are an area that I think a lot of couples, a lot of marriages struggle with, especially I think it's been exacerbated by COVID times
Right.
because there's a lot of uncertainty around finances, how finances are going to be maintained or grown. So I think, you know, that's one area, but I think underneath of each individual area, I think communication is probably the foundation to a lot of the situations or challenges that we see in marriages.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree totally with Che.
Yeah.
It's the communication piece that then lends to all of the other pieces, like finances.
Yeah. So one quick advice on best how to communicate, Shireen.
Be gentle, but be truthful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you say?
Listen with open ears as opposed to listening to respond, because that's part of communication. It's two ways.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good. You can tell there's some real wisdom here and rich advice. So I still say I do. If you want to know more about Che and Shireen and you want to get the book, go to 700club.ca and it'll be there for you. And of course, Shireen's with us throughout this week. So thank you for being with us. Really
Thank you.
appreciate
Very
it.
welcome.
Yeah. Well, after the break, Sandy finds a love to help her break the cycle of pain and abuse.